This is where it gets interesting. Compounding doesn't just apply to your bank account, it applies to your habits, your relationships, and your health. If you eat 1% fewer calories than you burn, you lose weight. If you eat 1% more, you become obese. You don't wake up one day and suddenly find yourself 50 pounds overweight. It's a slow, quiet accumulation of just this once. Money is the exact same way. Wealth is the standing ovation at the end of a very long, very quiet performance. It's the result of all the times you said no to something small so you could eventually say yes to something big. Now look at the psychology of sunk costs. Alex feels like he has to keep up his lifestyle because he's already invested so much into it. He has the big house, the big social circle. To scale back now would feel like failure. He is trapped by his own success. Maya has stealth wealth. Because she never let her lifestyle explode, she has the ultimate luxury, the ability to walk away. If her boss is a jerk, she can leave. If she wants to take 6 months off to travel, she can. Alex is a slave to his 1% mistakes, while Maya is a master of her 1% gains. But there's a deeper layer to this. It's called temporal discounting. It's our tendency to value a reward today much more than a reward in the future. $100 today feels better than $1,000 10 years from now. Our brains are hardwired to eat the seed instead of planting the forest. To be a successful investor, you have to effectively bully your lizard brain. You have to convince yourself that the future you is a real person who deserves to be taken care of. Most people treat their future self like a stranger they don't particularly like. They leave the future me to deal with the debt, the lack of savings, and the stress. But Maya treated her future self like a best friend. Here's what most people don't realize about the math of wealth. The gains are backloaded. If you look at Warren Buffett's wealth, over 90% of it was earned after his 65th birthday. Read that again. The most successful investor in history spent 50 years priming the pump before the real money started flowing. If he had quit at age 60, nobody would know his name. He didn't have better years than everyone else. He just had more years. He stayed in the 1% zone longer than anyone else. He didn't interrupt the compounding. But this creates a bigger problem for us in the modern world. We are surrounded by instant feedback loops. We post a photo, we get a like. We order a package, it arrives in 4 hours. We want our wealth to work the same way. We want to see the results of our 1% change by Friday. And when we don't, we assume the system is broken. But the system isn't broken. Your timeline is. You are trying to measure a forest by watching the grass grow. This is where the real insight lies. The magic of 1% isn't actually about the math. It's about the identity. When Maya decided to save that first $80, she wasn't just moving money. She was casting a vote for the kind of person she wanted to become. She was telling herself, I am an investor. I am someone who takes care of my future. Once that identity takes hold, the decisions become easy. She doesn't have to discipline herself not to buy the expensive car. She simply doesn't want it because it doesn't fit her identity. Alex, meanwhile, has the identity of a consumer. His self-worth is tied to his spend rate. To save money for him feels like losing a piece of himself. So, how do we actually apply this? How do we move from being an Alex to being a Maya? It starts with the rule of 1. Can you find 1% of your income to automate? Not 10, not 20, just 1. If you earn $5,000 a month, that's $50. It's a dinner out. It's a few streaming subscriptions. It feels pathetic. It feels like it won't matter. But that's the trap. That $50 is the seed of your forest. Once you automate it, you forget about it. Your brain adjusts to the new normal. And then, 3 months later, you move it to 2%. Then 3. Here's where things get interesting. Most people think they need more money to solve their problems. But more money usually just acts as an accelerator for your existing habits. If you are bad with $1,000, you will be dangerously bad with $100,000. The 1% habit is the training ground. It's where you learn to manage the psychology of money while the stakes are low. You don't practice for the Olympics on the day of the race. You practice in the dark, when nobody is watching, 1% at a time. Now, you might be thinking, but Jimmy, inflation is high, the housing market is crazy, and the world is a mess. 1% isn't going to save me. And you're right, 1% won't. Save you from a global catastrophe. but it will give you a margin of safety that 90% of the population doesn't have. It gives you the sleep at night factor. When you have an emergency fund and a growing portfolio, the news feels less personal. You stop reacting to every headline because you know your foundation is built on a law of nature, not a trend. The real issue isn't what you think. It's not about the what, it's about the when. Every day you wait to start your 1% journey, the cost of waiting grows. There's an old proverb that says the best time to plant a tree was 20 years ago. The second best time is today. But almost nobody talks about the third best time, which is tomorrow at a much higher cost. If you start saving at 20, you can retire a millionaire by putting away a few $100s a month. If you start at 40, you have to put away thousands. The math doesn't care about your excuses. It doesn't care that you had a tough year. It only cares about time. Now look, I'm not saying you should never spend money. I'm not a fan of the frugality at all costs movement. Life is for living. But there's a massive difference between living and decorating. Most of the money we spend isn't on experiences that make us happy. It's on costumes to show the world how well we're doing. The 1% rule allows you to strip away the costumes and focus on the architecture. It's about building a life that feels good on the inside, not just one that looks good on Instagram. This is where the storytelling ends and your reality begins. Imagine yourself 10 years from now. You're sitting in the same chair, watching a similar video. Are you the version of yourself that started today? The one who found that insignificant 1%? Or are you the one who said, I'll wait until I'm earning more? The gap between those two people isn't a single decision. It's 3,650 tiny decisions. It's the compounding of character. Practical takeaways are simple, but simple isn't the same as easy. First, audit your 1% leaks. Look at your bank statement. Find the subscriptions you don't use, the fees you're paying, the convenience purchases that add no value. That's your found money. Redirect it. Don't let it slide back into your checking account. Send it to an investment account. Second, increase your savings rate by 1% every time you get a raise or a bonus. If you get a 3% raise, keep 2% for your lifestyle and send 1% to your future. You'll never feel the difference in your daily life, but your 60-year-old self will want to kiss you. Third, and most importantly, change your definition of winning. Winning isn't having the biggest house on the block. Winning is having a Tuesday morning where you don't have to check your bank account before you go to the grocery store. Winning is the 1% freedom. It's the ability to say no to things that drain your soul and yes to things that feed it. Here's the thing. We're all compounding something. Every day, you're either compounding your wealth or you're compounding your debt. You're compounding your health or you're compounding your disease. You're compounding your skills or you're compounding your distractions. There is no neutral. You are always moving, even if it's just by a fraction of a percent. The question is, which direction are you heading? As we wrap this up, I want you to think about a single 1% move you can make today. Maybe it's opening that brokerage account you've been procrastinating on. Maybe it's calling your bank to waive a monthly fee. Maybe it's just deciding to read one chapter of a finance book instead of scrolling for another 20 minutes. It will feel small. It will feel like it doesn't matter. But remember the great divergence. Remember Alex and Maya. Wealth isn't a destination. It's a direction. And the most powerful force in the universe is at your disposal, provided you have the humility to start small and the patience to stay consistent. You don't need a miracle. You just need a margin. You don't need 100% change. You just need one. If you found this helpful, do me a favor and leave a comment below with one small win you've had with your money lately. It could be as simple as packing a lunch or finally setting up an auto transfer. These small wins are the fuel for the compounding engine. And if you haven't already, hit that subscribe button. We talk a lot about the intersection of money and the human mind here, and I'd love to have you along for the journey. Wealth is a quiet game played in a loud world. Don't get distracted by the noise. Focus on your 1%. Because in the end, the magic isn't in the money. The magic is in the person you become while you're building it. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.